be careful. I don't want you to break anything, said Lindsay's mother sternly. Lindsay sighed. Lindsay was 10 and was helping her mother and grandfather pack up the old house. Her grandmother had passed away 7 months previously, and her grandfather could no longer afford to keep the house on one pension. Lindsay's grandparents had collected a lot of antique things over the years, and they had to be carefully packed and moved. Especially that old mirror. There, said Grandpa, coming out of nowhere. Lindsay and her mother jumped. He had always had the habit of doing that. Why? Asked Lindsay curiously. Because breaking a mirror means 7 years of bad luck, and that mirror has a curse. If somebody broke that blessed glass, they would have naught but the worst experiences hell could produce, he warned. Lindsay, don't listen to your grandpa. You know superstition is nonsense, said Lindsay's mother. I'd rather you didn't break it anyway. It'd be a horrible mess, she added. Lindsay's mother and grandfather continued to pack the house while Lindsay ran about and played. No matter where in the house she played or how far away from the sitting room she was, Lindsay couldn't keep her mind away from that mirror. Then, when she couldn't stand it any longer, and her mother and grandfather went to bring a big load of boxes to the far-off driveway. The house was quite Victorian style. It was a little bit of a walk to get to the drive. Lindsay grabbed an antique silver candle holder and smashed the mirror to bits. She watched in excitement as the glass poured from the frame, like a crystal waterfall. Then she was hit with panic. What if they found it? Lindsay grabbed a broom and dustpan and swept up the broken glass. She dumped the clutter onto the frame and carried it like a tray upstairs. The spiraling staircase stopped on the second floor, then continued to the attic. Once in the already packed away and empty attic, Lindsay found the edge of the thick rug. She lifted the rug and easily slid the broken mirror beneath it. When she put the rug down, she couldn't tell the difference, as the rug was so thick, and she hoped and prayed that her mother and grandfather couldn't either. She went back downstairs and continued to play, as if nothing had happened. When her mother had finished the house, she remembered something. Dad, where did the mirror go? She asked her father, puzzled. It was right there. What could have happened to it? Grandpa said, scratching his silver hair. Lindsay, do you know what happened? No, I was playing in the other room. It's news to me that it's missing. Lindsay lied. Lindsay was a very good liar, and was never caught when she did. Her mother and grandfather were so tired that they really didn't look further into the matter. After all, it was an ugly old mirror no one was fond of at all, and it was just one less thing to pack. Why worry? About a year later, Grandpa had found a new home, and the old mirror incident lay forgotten. Lindsay was about to turn 11. Admittedly, a few odd things had happened since. Lindsay's dog ran away. Lindsay's mother had woken up to a lost chunk of hair, only to be told that lack of iron was causing hair loss. More to come. Lindsay got a gerbil, which Lindsay had woken up to find dead the day after she got him. But these were really just coincidences. The dog liked to roam. Maybe that day he had forgotten how to get home. The doctor said that Lindsay's mom had had anemia for a while. It was only just starting to show itself. Perhaps it was just an unhealthy gerbil. Lindsay's birthday finally arrived, and while her mother was cutting the cake, the telephone rang. Only the first of 7, an ominous and unknown voice had said. Her mother hung up the phone, believing it to be either a prank call or a misdialed number. Then the phone rang again. Mrs. Elizabeth Seaver, we're sorry to say, but your father has just died in a car accident. Paramedics were too late. He was dead at the scene. This wasn't the last. Throughout that year, grim things also occurred, only to be followed by Lindsay's 12th birthday. The second of 7 has arrived, said the ominous voice on the phone again. Seconds after Lindsay's mother had slammed the phone onto the hook, it rang again. Lindsay's uncle Jacob, who had been fighting in the war, was dead. The next year, another number of things, even grimmer, occurred. Lindsay's older sister had developed cancer. Lindsay's pregnant cousin had lost her baby in a drive-by shooting. On Lindsay's 13th birthday, the ominous voice from no one said, "The third of 7 is here." Then, news that Lindsay's Aunt Claire had been hit by a bus, not to survive. On and on these calls, and the news of death came with every birthday Lindsay had. By the time Lindsay turned 16, she had lost her entire family. Her grandfather, uncle, aunt, sister, cousin, and mother had all died in mysterious accidents. Now Lindsay was an orphaned, unstable foster child with nothing to live for. The day Lindsay turned 17, the exact moment the clock struck midnight, Lindsay's eyes fluttered open uneasily in her bed, and she heard a raspy, ominous voice blow around her like it traveled on the air in her bedroom say, "The last of 7 has finally arrived. Goodbye, Lindsay. You know, you really never should have broken that mirror." Mad Henry was a hermit who lived alone in a decrepit mansion at the edge of town. Rumors were rife about the wild-eyed man. Some folks said that he was a magician who called upon the powers of darkness to wreak havoc upon his neighbors. Others called him a mad doctor who could restore life to foul corpses from the local cemetery. No respectable citizen in town had anything to do with Mad Henry. Then one year a new family moved to town with a lovely daughter, Rachel, who caught Mad Henry's eye. He showered the maiden with gifts, goblets of pure gold, necklaces of pearl, and a pot of daisies that never dropped a single petal. Despite the gifts, Rachel fell in love with another, Jeffrey, a handsome young man just home from university. A week after meeting, they eloped, leaving behind a stunned Mad Henry. When Rachel and Jeffrey returned from the elopement, they threw a big ball and invited everyone in town. While Rachel was waltzing with her father, she heard a clap of thunder. Lightning flashed again and again. Suddenly, the double doors blew open, and a breeze whirled in, bringing with it the smell of dead, decaying things. Mad Henry loomed in the doorway, pupils gleaming red with anger. He was followed by the grotesque figures of the dead, who came marching 2 by 2 into the room. Their eye sockets glowed with blue fire as they surrounded the room. 2 of the corpses captured Jeffrey and threw him down at the feet of their lord. Red eyes gleaming, Mad Henry drew a silver-bladed knife and casually cut the bridegroom's throat from ear to ear. Rachel screamed and ran forward, pushing through the foul, stinking corpses of the dead, and flung herself upon her dying husband. "Kill us both!" she cried desperately, but Mad Henry plucked the lass out of the pool of blood surrounding her dead husband and carried her out into the thundering night. Behind him, the army of the dead turned from the grisly scene and followed their master. The sounds of thunder and lightning faded away as the alchemist and his dead companions disappeared into the dark night. Jeffrey's father and Rachel's father gathered a small mob and followed the evil hermit, intent upon saving Rachel. When they searched Mad Henry's house, they found it completely empty save for a light, which shone from a series of mysterious globes that bobbed near the ceiling of each room. Mad Henry had vanished. Search parties scoured the countryside for days, but turned up nothing. Jeffrey was buried in the local cemetery, and the dance hall was torn down. No one in town spoke about what had happened, and no one dared imagine what had become of poor Rachel. A year to the day after the ball, a timid knock sounded upon the door of Rachel's parents' home. When her father opened it, he saw a gaunt, gray figure on the stoop. Her eyes were dull with exhaustion and pain. It was Rachel. Her tongue had been cut out so she couldn't speak, but when she produced a knife from her tattered garments, the knife with a silver blade that they had last seen in the hands of Mad Henry, the gleam of satisfaction in Rachel's eyes told them that the streaks of blood that coated the knife were those of Mad Henry. That night, Rachel died in her sleep with a peaceful smile upon her ravaged face. When my older sister Krista was little, she started having nightmares, about 3 times a night. I was only about 2 at the time, so I don't remember any of it. My sister was 7 at the time. She would wake up screaming frantically and unable to catch her breath. The looks on her face, as my mom described it, were terrifying. She was deathly pale and freezing cold, as if she was a corpse. Krista would run to my parents' room and bang on the door and scream until they opened it. My mom didn't know how to help her, so she read books to try to figure out the problem. Again, the same thing happened the next night, and my sister woke up screaming and crying and shaking with fear. My mom went to the bathroom and got a cup of water and splashed a bit on Krista's face to try and calm her down. But it just made Krista think that my mom was mad at her, so she cried even more. Sometimes my mom would panic and couldn't think of a way to help her, so she would lock her bedroom door and have my sister screaming in the hallway all night. After about a year of these episodes occurring every night, my parents took Krista in for therapy. The psychologist said that nothing was wrong, but my parents knew that something was. They then took Krista to a doctor and had her brainwaves examined. The doctors too could find nothing wrong. One night, the most terrifying thing happened. No one heard Krista screaming, but my parents felt that something wasn't right. They ran to her bedroom and found her sitting on the floor in the corner of her room. Her legs were stretched out and her arms were lazily hanging at her sides. Her eyes were wide open and jet white. My mom rushed over and slapped her face to wake her from her trance. Krista blinked and said, "Ma, Satan is taunting me again?" Krista was scared to go to sleep. She always was. A few nights later, after that one night, my mom was dimming the lights for her to go to sleep. "Ma," Krista asked, "are there any saints I can pray to make him go away?" "Saint John Vianney," my mom said doubtfully. She hadn't lost hope in God at all. She just didn't want to let Krista down. So she then went and got holy water, holy oil, and blessed salt, and blessed the room and my sister. Together they prayed to God and Saint John Vianney. That night was the most miraculous night. My sister didn't wake up screaming. The devil couldn't enter the room. To this day, if my sister doesn't bless her room, she has nightmares. One night when Krista was 16, she was too tired to bless the room. She had a dream about a giant spider that was trying to kill her and her friends. She woke up to a loud boom, and her rabbit, Roxy, was running around frantically. Krista got up and blessed the room, and the next morning she found a dead spider, unlike one that she had ever seen, under her pillow. Even now, my sister can't tell me the dreams she had, and I'm 19. I thank God for saving my sister, and I thank St. John Vianney for wrestling the devil.